good evening to BBC News LimeLight. My name is Peter Pelham, and tonight we cover all of the exciting news that's happened recently. Our stories tonight: death caused by dangerous driving. Man arrested. Very exciting. Corpses in the street. Is there really a problem, or is it a source of free protein? And the first inaugural series game of car football, fully licensed and only 13 deaths. All of that and more tonight on BBC News. But for now, we take you to our first story about a massive accident that happened at a petrol station. Now, if I remember correctly, petrol stations are places where lots of fires and fuel and things that burn are kept. I know this because when I was a child, I may have accidentally set fire to one. Really, really badly. Anyway, we had a reporter on site. Enjoy!
Racing to the scene of an emergency. Firefighters struggle with a massive chemical oil spill. A huge fire burning above up to 10,000 litres of fuel stored underneath the building. The fire was caused by a collision of an oil tanker driven by one Mr. Rodriguez drivers, who unfortunately perished in the ensuing fireball. Bravery was abound all day as unprotected paramedics ran towards the flames to help a downed firefighter.
Rescue 211, be advised 199 is...
BBC News is pleased to announce that nobody other than Rodriguez was killed in the incident.
Let's get this man to the triage tent.
Do you think there is a threat to the people of this city from the large amount of fuel that's currently being stored underground? Is there the possibility this is already burning but hasn't exploded due to a lack of oxygen, which could happen at any time if a pipe was ruptured, sir?
We're too far away from the city for them to be worried.
But an explosion of maybe 10,000 litres of fuel could certainly throw chunks of concrete easily half a mile, if not further.
Now, I'd be more worried about these houses right next to us.
Have you evacuated the houses, sir?
How should I know? I don't just got here.
Thankfully, this particular officer seemed to be a one-off on all of the emergency services who attended this incident. The fire raged out of control for 9 hours, until eventually the fire service were able to bring it under control and extinguish it fully.
Transport this dirty
And
sand
then
somewhere.
the cleanup of the oil began, a long and arduous process.
Getting rid of all this filled hazardous stuff to dispose of.
This is Ekron Vulture, reporting from outside the BP station.
Steve? Steve? Why is there a bird on set? Why is this red cardinal? Steve? No, Steve, seriously. Why is this red cardinal? Steve? Steve, can we get rid of it? Well, I hope it wasn't endangered, but, well, we'll have that for a snack later. Thank you very much for that report, Mr. Reporter name. What's your name? Ekron, probably. Oh, well, that was a very interesting news story, wasn't it? Yes, I liked watching all the fires burn, and it's very good that nobody died, even though somebody probably should have. I mean, come on. If you're going to run into a fire, you probably deserve to die. What's that? Don't talk badly about firemen. I'll do what I want, Steve! And you, Alan! Shut up! Anyway, our next news story is about a death by dangerous driving. Apparently some panic drove very quick and killed somebody, and we had to write a news story about it. So, you know, you get to go ahead and do it now. Yep. I'm going to eat that bird.
A terrifying accident downtown. A car collides with another and then drives away. A hit and run in which an innocent man is killed.
Don't arrest
The culprit of the accident was found.
How much to get him out of jail?
Can you just accept?
29-year-old Hugo Chavez was arrested for causing death by dangerous driving.
Good morning. All local news and media outlets are hereby temporarily interrupted, and the BBC World Service has also suspended programming to report an urgent address from the Executive Office of the President of the Government of Evo. Please stand by.
Good day. I, President Ford, am addressing the nation in a time of great uncertainty. Approximately 15 hours ago, I ordered an Evo Defence Force operational team to enter Rockford to assist authorities in the raiding of a compound which stored a radiological dispersal device, or also known as a dirty bomb. It was held there by the Rockford Patriots Front, a nationalist terrorist group advocating the overthrow of the Rockford government. I can confirm that the raid was successful and the dirty bomb was secured and dismantled and is no longer a threat. Riots in Rockford and nationalist terrorism has died down and almost come to a complete stop. I can also confirm that the soldiers involved in the raid have returned to Evo safely. You're likely wondering, why would we intervene? You see, while the dirty bomb would have had no health effects to this nation if it were to detonate, merely a slight decrease in background radiation depending on wind, the detonation of the bomb would have been much more severe for Rockford. A civil war could have broken out, with the regular citizens erupting in violence against the nationalists, and of course the nationalists fighting back in return. I had to take the decision because God only knows what could have happened if a civil war was to occur close to the border of Evo. I simply could not take the risks of potential violence here in Evo if it was to occur. However, now the Rockford government is up and running, I have received from my intelligence sources that the Rockford government is preparing a counterattack on this country for my decision to send troops in to assist. Information is sketchy, but I can tell you that Evo is in a state of armed conflict with the nation of Rockford. I refuse to call this a war, for diplomacy is always better, and I can only hope Rockford should agree one day. Tensions are rising in the naval area, and I will be moving the defense readiness condition level to 3. I conclude by saying that terrorism from Rockford militant groups is more prominent now, and even acts of state-sponsored terrorism is likely. Evo will, and can, get through this. I'll make sure of it. Thank you, and God bless you, and God bless this great nation of Evo.
The siege of Compound A on the outskirts of Rockford begins. An APC from the Rockford National Guard advances. 2 BMPs from Evo City's Naval Defence Force advance on the other flanks, aiming to get their autocannons in range so they can suppress the Rockford Patriot Front soldiers who are hidden inside the building. Evo City Naval Defence Forces move forward, taking cover as they're protected by the suppressive fire of the BMPs. A technical is destroyed, and suppressive fire continues on the compound. So far, the Rockford Patriot Fronts have not returned fire on this early morning raid. Soldiers clear the building as suppressive fire continues to protect them. The top floor of the compound collapses, followed shortly by another one. Suddenly, the Rockford Patriots open fire on the soldiers. Bravely, the men continue to push forward under pressure. The compound once again falls quiet, assumably the patrons have retreated down below. Seeing little to no resistance, the armoured personal carrier and the two BMPs charge towards the facility. Their mission? To unload the elite assault troops. The finest men that Evo City has unload from these armoured vehicles, along with Rockford's guard. Together, they will take the building and destroy the Rockford Patriots front. And so the final assault on the compound begins. Resistance was quashed, and the compound was captured successfully.
Look, Alan, I know it's a state of armed conflict, and I know nobody expected. I mean, seriously, who took the VHS tape and actually put it in during a mid-report? Which one of you morons down in editing decided to put a bloody live report from the government in the middle of a pre-recorded thing? What kind of sense does that make? God, I'm working with amateurs. Anyway, listen, I know. Yes, Steve, I know it's not a war, but do we have to decorate the area to make it look like it's a bloody war? God, the pure incompetence. Mind you, state of armed conflict between Rockford and, Evo. Kind of worrying that. I think that feeds very nicely into our next report, because our next story is about, corpses left in the street, and how they're not looked after properly, and by the sounds of it, there's going to be an awful lot more corpses in the street these days. Steve, how much is caviar? Can we get some for the reporters? I'd like to have a job. Pew, 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 pew. This is going to be fun.
The end of an incident. Soon, all of these cars and everything else will be cleared up. But something will be left behind. Corpses, left in the streets where they died. Does Evo City have a problem with corpse disposal? When even a casual drive leads to seeing a corpse, then the city has a problem. I was able to find something very rare in the city, a coroner, but even they were disrespectful to the dead and unwilling to speak to the news. Excuse me, sir, are you the city coroner?
No comment.
Is there any particular reason the city streets are full of corpses all the time, sir? BMV News, sir.
I just started my job.
Was there a coroner before you, sir?
Working on it.
Are you the only coroner the city's ever had, sir? Oh, there he goes. Nobody was willing to talk to me. Regardless of the coroner not wanting to speak to me, though, the city has a serious problem with corpse disposal. So I took my evidence to the Prime Minister of the country. I'll try. Thank you very much for letting me come into your office, President Steele. I just have a few questions to ask you in relation to the issue of corpses in the streets, sir. Are you aware that on my round around in the city in the past half an hour, I have seen no more than 15 corpses laying in the street?
Do you know who I blame for that?
Who do you blame for that, sir?
I blame this Nazi police force. I'll tell you what. They go around tasing innocent people unconscious on our streets, and it's up to a government official like me to stop it.
It was a dead end.
What?
The president found himself being arrested shortly after my interview for various reasons.
Why does it?
The only thing I can say at this time is that the president has been detained for breaking a law set by himself.
Thank you very much for the statement, sir. I do appreciate it. It's very difficult being a news reporter these days and ages. And so, with the president who wouldn't fund a coroner's department behind bars, perhaps there's hope in the future that corpses will be properly disposed of. This is a man reporting from a city somewhere with things happening. Goodbye.
Yes. There's corpses everywhere. I mean, even this bird, which, yes, we shot, but this bird is a corpse that's just been left out by the city. Totally inappropriate. Very, very tasty, though. Anyway, thank you for that report, whoever it was who was reporting that. I think it was a Mr. Mann. Oh, yes, and the president was arrested as well. That's not really that important, because that happens all the time, and he was a very naughty man, and then he left. Oh, well, what a shame. Anyway, yes. And so, we've decided that it's probably appropriate to move on to something light-hearted to end our news story on, considering the very dark, deep, depressive, nasty stories that we've been reporting on today. Steve! Where's my fucking croissant? Anyway, the first inaugural version of car football was played just a few days ago in a mechanical courtyard, I think. It was a total disaster, but reporting live from the game is Mr. Brian Bird. Do I have this, or do I have a croissant? Bird, croissant, bird, croissant, bird. At least that's here.
An exciting new sport was taking place today, as Team Blue took Team Red on the inaugural game of car football. My name's Brian Bird, and I watched the old sorry spectacle. The kickoff was very telling, because it was bloody awful. They could barely hit the ball, they went underneath the car and buggered off out of play. It was obvious that they was barely like Alan Shearer or Steve Stone, who were capable of actually making the ball go anywhere other than where they didn't want it to fucking go.
Oh my god, we merged! What the fuck?
I can't drive it anymore.
A fluke rebound here almost resulted in a goal, but it didn't.
Broken.
And the match was like visiting your mother-in-law. It were a fucking battle, with smashes and crashes, and no actual fucking football going on. 'Cause they're in cars, so they ain't using their feet, are they? Thick shits. One of the only shows of talent in this entire match was when that git hit the post. But he hit the post. And then showing no talent, he almost stuck it in the back of his own net. But you know, he were lucky. This guy got fed up and decided to just take ball home with him. So the match ended in a boring 0-0 draw where they just rammed each other and could barely handle the bloody ball. I got to speak to some of them later on with my professional voice.
So you were one of the players on the blue team. A 0-0 draw despite some very close calls. What are your opinions on this new fascinating sport?
Well, I think it's a very great sport, to be honest. It's very fun. Yeah.
Did you have troubles controlling where the ball went with your buggies?
Yes, we had. Yeah, we have a lot of fucking troubles. Don't lie.
Do you possibly think that slower cars might benefit in the future for this sport?
Oh, yes.
Yes, hell yeah.
And that's the end of it. It were a waste of time, but I guess it were kind of fun to watch them, like, kill each other. My name's Brian Bird, the regular sport person, and I'll be bringing you more sports in the future, or I'll be in jail. You know, one of these two. Right, where's my booze? He said I could have booze after I did this!
Thank you all very much, Mr. Brian Bird, you drunk, stupid, avian pillock, who I'm not going to eat. No, I'm not going to eat the sports guy. For that report on the first inaugural game of car football. It was very boring and painful to watch, and hopefully with some more input it can actually be made a sport worth watching. Sport is always very lacking in these games. Anyway, that is all the time for the news that we have today, and... We're not allowed to bloody advertise! Steve, get rid of it! Steve! Thank you. Anyway, where was I? Oh, yes. Thank you very much for tuning into the news today. I am on my medication at the moment, so I'm very, very calm. Alan, little stain on the table! I hate you, Alan! I hate you! Tune in next week for more news. I have to go murder Alan. Alan!